Our next presenter is Mathis Nitschke from Munich. I am very happy that he came to Amsterdam, as I was in Munich a lot this year because we collaborated on a project. I'm really happy to be part of it. And the photographer Luciano was also part of this augmented reality experience application. But Mathis can best explain this himself. Yeah, opera maker, composer, very multi-diverse person, Mathis. Yeah, welcome, Mathis.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for working with me. I have a Dutch history because I had studied composition in The Hague some time ago. And when I saw Klasien talking about her projects during a conference in Munich, I was immediately reminded to my history and wanted to work with her, and thankfully we had this project. MAYA, which I call a mixed reality techno-opera. So what is this? It's not an AR opera. So one of the main things. So I'm a theater maker. I'm a composer, and what I did here is I used the smartphones and augmented reality as an element, as I use a singer or musician or light or whatever. So it's not. Focus is not on augmented reality. I just use it as a. As one of the tools I can use as a theater maker. I'm curious what kind of audience is here. Who's coming here from a tech background? Who's developing? And who's coming here from an art background? So that's kind of half and half, I would say. I'm also half and half. So I'm, as I said, I actually studied composition. I went to The Hague because they have this electronic music departments, but and I'm also a sound engineer by trade. But I tried to combine that with. So I'm an engineer and artist at the same time. So MAYA started with this very place here. It's really, it's the last industrial ruins of Munich. That's my hometown, Munich, southern Germany. And it's one of those really posh places where there's no square meter left, renovated, brought into new function. And this is a building built in the 30s by the Reichsbahn as a steam production plant. So these 3 ovens are producing steam to clean the heating systems of the train cars. And it was in function after the Second World War. So they brought it back into or they actually completed this plant in the 50s, and then it was in function until the 70s, late 70s. They actually, so what you see here is quite new from the 70s. So they tried to make it larger, not only to produce steam, but to actually use it as a power plant and the heating plant for the surrounding, which didn't work. And then they actually stopped it, and from the 80s on, this is out of function. And so for 30 or 40 years, this building is not used anymore. And as you can see, it is used a lot by the youth. It's actually one of the most famous, most desired buildings in this lost space culture. People go there to make photos, to make videos, to hang out at night, to spray graffiti. And it's quite huge. Those pictures, they don't really show the dimensions. So it's 50 meters times 35 meters, and the height is 27 meters. It's a cathedral, and I heard about this from an architect, and as soon as I heard about it, I immediately had to get in, like all the other youth. So I went into. And I was standing in this room, and I thought, okay, here I have to do something. The dimension is also a bit better to understand with actually references. So those ovens are 7 or 8 meters high. And with musicians on top of the ovens, it looks like this. That was pretty clear to me that I have to place musicians on the ovens. That was the first rehearsal with the musicians, if they actually dared to go there. And they did. So what you see here is a dying hall. And this picture is taken in summer, but I saw it in November. So outside, all the trees were actually also dying. It was all about being cold and dying and lonely. So it's a piece about dying, which I wanted to create there. And well, I show you a teaser video we created before the opera, which gives you, which shows you a bit the mood of the place, I think.
Das Leben, der Körper, das Sterben. Ich bin von Kopf bis Fuß, Kopf bis Fuß, Kopf bis Fuß. Verdammt nochmal, warum hilft mir denn keiner?
So I jump back one slide before I go into the actual story, which I wanted to tell there. If you see these pictures here, one of the stories this place tells by Googling it is that in this hall the very first techno raves happened in Munich, beginning of the 90s. So that's completely believable, although not true, but it's a good story. But this was my starting point to create a piece about techno, or to reflect on techno, and actually on the 90s. So doing a piece in the ruins is like actually really a 90s nostalgic thing. And that brought me to science fiction from the 90s. And we just heard about William Gibson, and I read an interview with him from 2008, which is before the iPhone. No, not, it's actually, when came the iPhone? 2008, I think. Or, no, we have 10 years, like 2007. But now we arrived in science fiction, and it's much stranger than anything I could ever imagine. And now 10 years later, I think it's even more strange that we all have those little devices. And So the not scenery. How do you say in English? The story setting I came up with is this near future utopia that we live in a society that is actually about taking care of all the digital ecosystems, about installing servers, about maintaining networks, about producing power, in order that at the end of our when we fulfilled our duties, we can connect to the machines and upload our soul, our being, or whatever that could be, into cyberspace, and from that moment on we live a paradise life without being without needing to take care of our body, about illness, about daily routines or whatever. So we would be able to live a life in total appreciation of arts, of philosophy, of replication, of mutation, without those stupid finding partner things and so. So that's actually the setting, and the drama starts in the year 2050, where there was this incident which killed all human beings on Earth. It's not really clear what it was, but suddenly there were no human beings anymore, which is for cyberspace not directly a problem. But as we all know, technology erodes, and you have to maintain it. So in some years from then, probably cyberspace would be extinct too. So they have a problem in their paradise, and they have this idea that they. So there's this one woman connected to the machines, and they managed to reprogram the machine so they. So they reawaken this woman and download the Maya with the order to, or with the assignment to create a new humanity. And that's the beginning of the actual opera. We have one woman, and one big influence why I'm so interested in working with smartphones, little excursus, is there are two pictures which were spreading around in 2013 at the incoronation of the Pope. So here you see the incoronation of the Pope 2005. And this is 2013. And the heart of the theatrical setting I'm interested in was one lonely woman seeking for connection, for a partner or whatever, in the midst of a group of people with smartphones not seeing her. That's the basic, very basic idea. And the actual playing partner, in a way, is the smartphone for Maya, for the woman. And we created an app for that. And before I go into the specifics, I show you another video, which is actually edited with fragments of the actual piece. So you get a bit more glimpse of what actually happened then in the final piece. So the snoring, the evening consists of basically 4 parts. We witness Maya being re-embodied. So she actually is reborn into her body, and she forgot about living in a body for millions of generations. She replicated herself in the digital world. And so the evening is actually a short run through life in a body. So we have 4 big scenes: birth, then childhood and youth, being adult, and being old. And as we get tired, ever more so often, of course, she gets tired too, then she goes to sleep. And inside those sleeps, we hear string solo. We have 3 instruments on top of the ovens: violin, viola, and cello. So 4 dramatic parts and 3 music solo parts. And so this is our app icon. It's a mixture between the play icon of a cassette recorder or YouTube and the laser warning symbol. We'll come back to lasers later. You saw them already. And we use the app in 3 phases of the whole evening. It's not used the whole time, it's 3 phases. So the whole idea of using the space is when you enter it. You're actually you're totally fascinated by not being able to decipher the building. You don't understand what actually was happening there in terms of engineering. What was this for? And then on the second layer, you don't understand what all those graffiti mean. But you see those layers of intelligence happening in the screens, and you immediately want to explore it. You want to find out. I always compared it to the graves in Egypt. Like if you enter this grave, you see that there's a high intelligence creating it, and you see all those hieroglyphs, but you don't understand a thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually used an augmented reality app to help the visitors understand a bit more what those hieroglyphs mean. It should be fairly easy. So you point your smartphone and then you get some information on them. And that's basically what we did. So basically the visitor enters the building as if he would enter a historic site. I already mentioned that 2050 humanity was extinct, and the visitors go to this place from a very far future, like year 5000. So actually, for some reason, we have a new humanity, and they visit this place, this past high culture, and we help them understand how life was back then in our now current near future. It's complicated, but by using a museum map. So they actually go around the space and they look for those little markers here, which are museum signs. They are not actually the markers for the augmented reality app, but they point to that there something is to be found. And we actually used the graffiti. So the idea is that we use the graffiti as a key to a different world. So you were exploring the whole room. You took the app. You actually first entered the room. With this first scan, you actually registered into the rooms. And then I show you some examples you could see there. So actually, the ovens were the actually is one of my favorite words actually. So the ovens were the actual transformation apparatuses. So you enter the room, you enter the oven, connect yourself to the machine, upload to the cyberspace, and the oven gets burned immediately. It's very efficient, very German. So we have a lot of experience with that. So it's all there, you know. It's the buildings from the 30s. I mean, that's the first thing I thought when I entered the room. I mean, the 3 big ovens. That's why I wanted to create a piece about dying. So here, actually, this is a door, and on top of the door, when you entered the oven, you actually had to acknowledge the how is that in English? Mit dem Eintritt anerkennen Sie die Nutzungsbedingungen. That's the thing we do 10 times a day without actually. So you acknowledge the license or whatever. Yeah. Then we had those little tubes, and we reinterpreted them as a water. Hand washing things. Thanks. So there we have Hände waschen vor dem Upload. Like it's really a sacred ritual also. Here we see names from all the people uploading to cyberspace. It's how do you say? Not a database, but all those war heroes. When you have those grave money, yeah, in a way like that. So each person is acknowledged to. Actually, you could only upload to cyberspace after you fulfilled your life, your duties in life. It's very Calvinistic, actually. So you had to work hard, work well, and then you could enter paradise. So with the app you could also do screenshots. That's now actually screenshots. That was the old organ. Another, I still don't know the name, but there we actually, so it all started in 2020 with the first one. We see her in this next, so we have those 2025. We have those motivational things there. I mean, so in 2025, Irene was the first woman who could upload herself to cyberspace. Where's Irene? There's Irene. So there was only one woman in 2025, and then it became more and more each year. Then. The main drama for Maya later in the piece is so Maya is trying to rebuild humanity, and she communicates with her fellows in the digital space through music. So actually we have her voice and we have recorded voices from cyberspace, and what they actually they don't say much more than asking her, how is it? Did you find someone? Did you do your assignment? Auftrag ausgeführt. And of course, the power plants go defunct, the systems go down, but here in this near future utopia, everything is nice. So systems have no errors, cooling works, CPUs go strong, gamers paradise. As I said, we have those motivational wordings, sentences. You will be the light. And each beginning there is a new miracle. And so it's all coming from the ruins. So we went through the ruins and they thought, what could that be? So here we see this, we thought this is kind of a post box, a mailbox. So we asked, do you want to donate your implants? Then send your message to the Center for Hybrid Life Forms. And then we actually see the tank where the implants are stored. And you see a bit how well actually the augmented reality works. So this is actually fog going down. And it was quite miraculous. And with these markers, you went through the whole ruins and were looking like for Easter eggs, and you explored the whole pre-story, not by like in Star Trek where you have the text telling you what happened before, but you actually puzzled together all the elements for what happened before the story of the evening actually begins. So this is one more example. This is a body scanner. And to go more into technical details, this is the controller for the app. So we had 3 phases. What I just showed you was the phase 1, we called it, modus 1. That was the entrance installation. So people would go in, buy some drink, and look for those markers and explore the room. And then the show starts, and we put the app on pause. And it would say, now the app is on pause. Put your smartphone in the pocket and enjoy the show. Then several scenes were happening, and we projected the app icon with a laser on the wall when we needed the audience to pull out the smartphones again. And this is the second stage, which is the rave part. In the video example, that was actually the music. It was quite loud, and it was actually the youth part of Maya, where she is stripping herself into some other world, some other reality. And what happened now, in the first phase, we added a layer on top of the ovens. So we added a layer of reality on what's to be found in the space. But my original idea actually was to use this device as a magical looking glass to allow you this maybe even forbidden view inside the digital world. And then there's of course the big question, how does the digital world look like? And that kept us busy quite a lot. So, but you see how it works. It would track actually very well. Also, for the techies, it's all the graffiti which works as the markers. So what we did here is we used invented organs by an artist friend, Judith Egger, and we showed the transformation process from organic life into immaterial life. So we would see over 8 or 10 minutes all kinds of different organs, pretty invented, pretty fantastic, slowly raining in the ovens. I have later a little bit of a video. Oh, we saw it in the video clip a little bit also. And they would, there's this deep sea rain. So down in the deep sea at 8,000 meters deepness, there's the constant rain of all the organic material from the top of the sea, and it would just deteriorate more and more into smaller particles, and would be a constant rain. And the deep sea creatures, they actually live off that, and that's the basic metaphor for what we thought would be a transformation process into digital existence. So we have those organs. We go from outside, flashy tones into more black and white stuff, which is more like bones. Into particles, which would, here you see again how that would work. I think I have one video, so they would. No, that's a photo actually. So that's a screenshot. So all those organs would transform themselves into particles, into pixels actually, and they would fly around. Here we have something. Yeah, okay. And they would form, they would build clouds and build forms and disappear, dissolve again already immediately. And you could go close, and you could go back, and you saw in the screenshots you could have actually two ovens in your picture. And it did work as if you, as if that would be a magical looking glass. So those pixels are actually light particles. So actually, my famous word actually. So defining the process, the transformation process from materiality into immateriality as a process from body into light, it was clear that a light would be not only illuminating things in the space, but would be a figure by itself. It's actually kind of the physical representation of the immaterial digital life. And so that's how we came to this laser dance. So laser, of course, as a 90s reminiscence to the techno era, but also as a pure representation of light. I need to show you this because the final phase 3 is only about light. So we have this laser dance, a laser choreography. This is one of my favorite pictures because I usually show that to opera directors and tell them, see, that's how opera can be also. It's so that's the scene before the app is used a third time. Laser comes 2 times. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So one laser scene is the dance, where it really makes a solo. And here it's built an installation on the ground floor, and when people are going through it, they actually break the beam, and it really looks like those digital ones and zeros, like the communication network and the fiberglass. And so what we did then in the next scene is now we activate our apps, my dear little audience. Now I have to find my app. So we do it. Unfortunately, showing you the AR content I showed you on pictures doesn't make sense here, and we tried using the beamer for this. Doesn't make sense. But what we can show to demonstrate how this final thing works. So if I set phase modus 3A, what we actually do is nothing. Now you can switch off this light. Please. So here it says, beleuchten Sie Maya. Light Maya. And we switched off all other lights in the space, and the audience was supposed to use their smartphones to light up Maya and follow her through a longer scene. And there, then she gives her final speech. And when that finished, do you all have your sound on? Because I think I have my sound off, which is not a good idea. So suddenly all those digital voices, which were coming from speakers before, suddenly come out the suddenly they found the way into the smartphones of the audience. Until cyberspace is dead too. It's an opera. I'm sorry. So, so I think I'm already over time. But what I wanted to actually do is I'm still editing the video of the whole show, and I have a video from the last scene where we use exactly this phase, and it shows you quite well how actually the room was used and how the people were moving, which is actually the main part of the show. And how many of you understand German? Sehr gut sogar, because so I jump into this very scene, which is the third dream. So it's a viola solo. And then the alter, the last dramatic scene starts with first a monologue, and then she sings a song by Gustav Mahler, and then gives it the final speech until the end. And I hope nobody's in a hurry. This takes 15 minutes. Is that too long? Or shall I break? Klasien, the whole movie would now take 15 minutes. Shall I break it after the Mahler, or what's your impression? Hmm? Okay, so I give you, and then I just stop. Okay. You can switch that off.
Es geht nicht. Es geht nicht. Es geht nicht. Es geht. Oh, es geht. Außer Atem, Schwindelgefühle, schwere Beine, Müdigkeit, schmerzende Finger, Gicht, die Erschöpfung, die Schwäche. Selbsterkenntnis. Nicht mehr jung sein müssen, nicht mehr dazugehören müssen, nicht mehr beliebt sein müssen, originell, gut aussehend, erfolgreich, endlich wissen, wer man ist. Weisheit, sich nicht mehr wehren gegen den ewigen Schlaf. Das Ende des Lebens. Den Tod.
liebe Gemeinde. Wir sind heute hier zusammengekommen, um den Tod des letzten Menschen auf dieser Erde zu beklagen. Ihr Name war
Maya.
Maya. Ich habe sie leider nur
here. So there were 5 shows. Altogether we had 1,500 visitors, which was really great. And this is, you see 2 of the Luciano on top, Klasien down there, who did all the work of the app. And thank you very much for doing it. There you are. I completely went over time. I think I have no idea how long it's spoken. It's really, I told you like 10% of the thing. It's really so. What you maybe saw in the video and the final, that it all actually got some space. So people were allowed to move. People were able to have a peace with the whole thing. And there were very different layers on top of each other, and I tried to focus here on the digital app thing. Yeah. Questions? Yeah.
What have you learned? What's going well? What would you do differently next time?
Yeah. Well, several technical things, of course. I mean, always the problem is that you can't test your Wi-Fi system without having a hall full of people. That's always a problem. So actually we needed, only on the 3rd show it worked flawlessly. That was, but I have no idea how to, well, of course you bring your experiences. This is like also the digital diaspora. So we had only an LTE connection. And then we had to distribute that on a Wi-Fi system. So, and of course, if you have a Wi-Fi system, all the smartphones in the room, they think, oh, I'm at home, I can synchronize my photos and videos, and they all did like tons of it. So each evening, we had like 30 or 40 gigabyte of upload during the 1.5 hours. So that was over an LTE connection. So. So that's one thing, of course, which in terms of usability, I think it worked quite well. So there were the people. I did a survey afterwards if they perceived this augmented reality app as really as a benefit artistically or as a gimmick. And it was more or less half and half. And I have some demographic informations as well. And it's completely not clear to, the young people liked it and the old people hate it. It was more or less the other way around, actually. So the young people were expecting much more fancy whiz-bang stuff. And the old people really understood the layer of story which added to it, so that was also very interesting. Yeah, and things like if you use a torch for a long time, then of course the battery goes down, which we knew before, but what we didn't really take into account that the people, even with the torch app, with our app and the torch on, they still want to make tons of photos, so they change apps, and then when they go back to our app and they want to use the torch again, actually it wouldn't come up again. So that's why in the end, only 20% of the torches were still working. So those are the technical things. I think we did extremely well in terms of what we could do technically. Actually, it was Luciano was really hating me for we hit pretty much every technical limitation you could limit. Like, for example, obviously no augmented reality technology supplier ever thinks about darkness. And of course, in theater, you want darkness. Yeah. What did we learn?
Maybe one thing to add, that also the AR community who was there thought about way you can do so much in AR right now with 3D graphics, really cool, but it really drains your battery and not all phones can handle. So we were really looking for the perfect match, let's say. So yeah, I think that was really valuable because we really wanted the most. That I think maybe 98% of the people more or less were having a phone in their pockets that could use, you know, all the faces, and I think that was really important to us.
Yeah, actually, in terms of numbers, we had 1,500 visitors, and we had 1,200 downloads of the app. So it's quite a high percentage of people using it. Well, during the first phase, during the installation, you heard the sounds which were also played. So this is quite nice when 100 people are using the app and you hear all those sounds spread in the room. So this is was kind of a sound installation. During the second phase, during the organ rains, there was no sound from the app. That was like a loud wave from ours. And yeah, then in the end, which is, I mean, it's not like sound using augmented reality. Is just the whole end is about grasping the smartphone as an object. Like suddenly you think about having a strange device in your hand. That's at least what I thought. But yeah, I have to admit, so in this small room, it works really nicely with the spread voices. In the big room, I had to help it again. So it's quite weak in a big room. Yeah.
Regarding the end, all the voices that said MAYA were female. I think. Is that was obviously a choice, but were all the people in cyberspace only female, or?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
It's a female paradise. I didn't tell that now because it would have another 10 minutes. But yeah, it's all female. Which I thought it's a female world. I would. The runes don't exist like that anymore, so I couldn't do it in the runes again. Because it actually now gets a new function. I could imagine it doing in a different hall, like at Maya 2.0. The thing is, this is so location specific, so it's really every minute detail is I always asked, is that coming from the room, or did we bring it? There's no stage, there are no props, there's not whatsoever. I always called it minimal invasive. So I really wanted to distill the story or the whole piece out of this hall.
So would we find you a place here in Holland if you come over and do it here?
Of course, I would. It's actually the only missing link. I know of people who would actually be somewhat interested in financing it, but they need some concrete plan. So if you have a hall, yeah, I hoped. Well, there will be several versions. So the archive documented. I had hoped that I finish it before Christmas. Not sure if I do. So this was a days of editing work. So there will be a week of editing. I'm not sure if I manage. And then there will be a real documentary. Like a documentary making of the whole thing with lots of interview stuff. And this is also, probably it will be January, February, March, actually, to be honest. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing how many people are here, I think augmented reality, maybe we should use this topic more often in our meetups. Yeah? There's one fan here, okay. So the bar is still open, so please take a drink and see you hopefully next year.